Number 10, the Lamborghini Countach, the one that started it all. Not the Lamborghini company, mind you, but the one that started their most iconic, and I'm guessing probably best-selling car look ever too, because before the Countach, had anybody ever heard of Lamborghini? And let's be honest, even if they had heard of Lamborghini before this super iconic and revolutionary Lamborghini Countach look, did anybody really care all that much about what they had to offer? So this one had to be on this list, because if this one had not gotten that proverbial ball rolling for this Lamborghini automotive brand, and their most popular and most iconic look, then there wouldn't be any of these recent and most modern Lamborghinis that we have been ogling so much at. But the earliest versions of the Countach, I have actually never really liked all that much. They were actually just a bit too plain, too skimpy, and ho-hum. But that starting foundation was there for it to evolve and to build off of, and build off of they sure as heck have. Because since that iconic Countach, we had the likes of the Diablo, Murcielago, Aventador, and this current flagship, one of theirs, the Rivuelto. But towards the end of the Countach's insanely long run, it did end up or manage to look a lot better, a lot more exotic, and quite a bit more special, as well as having just become quite a lot cooler too, with that final iteration or version of it. So now that we've appropriately started with covering the great-granddaddy of them all, it's only going to be getting a lot more modern and recent from here on up. Because, spoiler alert, I don't care for any of the Lamborghini cars that came before the Countach. Lamborghini is only known for one thing, at least to me, and that is that super aerodynamic and cool wedge-shaped look and design of their most iconic cars. But that one thing is all that they need, because it is the greatest of all the things when it comes to this automotive look and design thing. Lamborghini's iconic Countach look has been the apex and pinnacle look of all the exotics, and just all the cars in general, in this entire world. So with all of that having been said, who's going to be our first modern or more recent raging bull of this super amazing herd of bulls then? Why, it's going to be the first baby brother to their iconic and flagship generational big brother bulls, the Gallardo. And if you're watching this video, you probably already do know that Lamborghini's generational flagship models have had a stable mate for at least a couple of generations now, and they have come to be affectionately known as the baby Lambos. As mentioned, this Gallardo model has been the first of this continuing line of baby Lambos who have graced this green earth and who have been galloping alongside their generational flagship models for a few generations now. And just as their nickname implies, they have more cutesy and adorable versions of their generational flagship stablemate, with a shorter, more compact and stubbier miniature look, compared to their no-holds-barred flagship models of each generation for a few generations now, with this Gallardo being not only the first but one of their better ones, especially the latter versions and iterations of it. So the Gallardo might not have been the most extreme and crazily styled Lambo of all time, but it was plenty cool and plenty charming in its own right. But let's basically do a 180 and head down the path of the extreme opposite of the Gallardo. And what are we going to have when we do just that? We get this extreme and insanely over-the-top style Lamborghini Veneno, who is, of course, our 8th place finisher on this special and dedicated list to the super iconic supercar brand. And if you didn't think that iconic wedge shape of theirs couldn't be made to look even more insane, well, you'd be wrong, because they have somehow managed to do it with this Lamborghini Veneno. So when it comes to this iconic Lamborghini look, this is their most wild and most out there one yet. If we're not considering prototype and concept models like the Lamborghini Terzo Millennio and the V12 Vision Gran Turismo. So then, why is it this low on this Lamborghini-focused top 10 list? If it's so extreme and over the top, because of one huge and major consideration, and just like the Koenigsegg Jesko's look and design, it's those slightly misfitting headlights that do not go so well with the rest of its body's look and design. And as alluded to, unlike the Jesko's insanely out of place and thoroughly misfitting headlights, the Veneno's headlights aren't nearly as egregious, but still could have been quite a lot greater, and has also been quite the big miss opportunity that could have turned this car's design all the way up to an 11. But just like the Jesko, though, this major shortcoming and missed opportunity with this major component of any automobile's appearance is what has kept it from finishing a lot higher in these automotive top 10 lists. But it's not all bad, because not only did it make it to this super short list of only the 10 greatest Lambos of all time, but then to actually not be completely at the bottom too. So, Like I said, it's not all bad, not at all. Heck, if you're one of the few lucky owners of this insanely rare supercar, you would probably consider yourself to be so very fortunate just to have one. Period. Because there were less than 5 of them that were ever produced. Yep, just enough to have one for the North, one for the East, one for the South, and one for the West. So now that I've disappointed some of you with my placement of the Veneno at almost a complete bottom position, who is the first of the 7 other models that I thought were better designed than that already insanely designed Veneno? Let's find out just that by making our way up to this next spot on this unique top 10 Lambo list. And who are we going to find? Who is the first of the rest of this list that has been able to outshine the already outstanding Veneno? Why, this lucky number 7 spot holder on this dedicated top 10 list just happens to be this world-renowned and remarkable Lamborghini Diablo. So after a 782 and 1/2 year production run by the Countach, which that number, by the way, was probably just a slight exaggeration, Lamborghini finally comes out with a successor to that super iconic and world-famous Countach. And the Diablo is just a much cleaner and much more modernized-looking flagship model for this Lamborghini supercar brand of automotives, as well as it also really just helping them to not look so stuck in the late 70s and early 80s anymore. And even though the Countach really helped to put Lamborghini on the map, as they say, this Diablo model might have actually been the one that was on more kids' bedroom walls and classroom folders, and was probably the actual model that took them from being a fascinating and pretty interesting automobile maker to a bona fide supercars leader and trendsetter within that industry. Or in other words, I think that the Diablo proved to myself and many others that they weren't going to just be a one-hit wonder, as they say. And that's why it is here at this lucky number 7 spot on my list of the 10 best-looking Lamborghinis of all time, where it definitely belongs. Oh, so it's on to this fascinating number 6 spot of every top 10 list that's ever been now. And why is this particular number 6 spot so fascinating? Because it's far from the number 1 spot, but it's actually at the top of the bottom half. So you might just say that it is the best of the worst of every top 10 list? Or maybe it might just be a bit too off-putting to put it that way. Well, anyways, after the awesome reception of the Lamborghini Aventador's design around 2012, how are they going to follow up to something that was as amazing and perfect as that? How were they ever going to outdo such a remarkable design as that Aventador's? Well, they were going to try with the Centenario, and that's who we have at this interesting number 6 spot on this particular top 10 list. Of course, any attempt to improve on perfection is always going to be an insanely tall order, if not outright just an exercise in futility. So how are they going to actually go about doing it? Well, they were going to start by limiting the Centenario model to less than 50 units total. That should really help out. Then they were going to give it a double-stack front bumper to allow this beast to generate even more downforce for itself, as well as giving a rear diffuser that's greater than all that's ever come before it to my eyes and knowledge. And actually, even on Wikipedia, it says that, quote, the Centenario also has the largest rear diffusers to ever be incorporated into a car, end quote. But like any great 90s infomercial, though, but wait, there's more. How about those awesomely exposed carbon fiber body panels of its? Eh? Still not enough? What about that first ever triple tip exhaust for a Lamborghini model then? That has got to do the trick for you, right? So with all of that having been said, the question now becomes, did it beat out that standard Aventador flagship model that they were undoubtedly trying to outdo? Well, we've got 5 more spots to go, so be sure to subscribe to be notified when the second video in this 2-part series drops, so that you can find out just that. So until that next one, peace.